Good morning and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Mavani. I hope you all are doing good. Let's have a positive start with Lao Tzu. Silence is a source of great strength. And here he's not talking about, or he's not limited with this verbal silence. He's talking more about mental silence that is consuming huge amount of our energy on regular basis. Thinking about things that are not going to happen ever is again a big, you can say, energy dragon that drags away huge amount of our energy. Think about it, meditate on this thing with this, dear friends. The first item that we have is restoring dignity. It is associated with this disease called leprosy. I have got on your screen, you can see 4 points. These points are important for your MCQ. Of course, these items were not available in this editorial, but I have got some extra information for you. When I say extra, I mean to say that these things are very much important as well for you guys. So this leprosy is also known as Hansen's disease, a thing that you should remember. The other thing is it is a chronic infectious disease. And the third thing is that it is caused by a bacteria called Mycobacterium leprae. The other thing is that there is no age limit, right? It can happen to a small child, a just born baby, and it can happen to a person who is octogenarian. So time is or age is not a limit as far as this disease is concerned. The good thing is that it is a curable disease, and if treatment is provided on timely basis, if early treatment is provided to the person who is affected by this disease, then these disabilities that can be caused because of this disease, we can avert most of these disabilities. With this, dear friends, exact mechanism of transmission even today is something that is we haven't found it yet. We are still you can say we are still struggling to find exact reason of the transmission of this disease. But the most important thing is that in our country, in our society, we find this stigma, that is associated with various different diseases. I still remember when we were growing up as a child, we used to see this, television channel, and you find this advertisement. It was this AIDS awareness campaign, and the main, this gist of this advertisement is that that AIDS is something that you don't get by touching a person who has got AIDS. That was the message. And here again we find the same sort of thing that is required, right? When I say touching, I'm talking about more about creating awareness that this disease is a curable disease, and medical facilities are available for this thing, and there is no point of ostracizing someone. There is no point of throwing someone in a corner or throwing someone out of society if someone has got a particular disease. That person could be unfortunate, but that does not mean that we stop treating that person as a human being. The other thing is, when we do this sort of thing, when we create this wall around that person, what happens is that we are in fact punishing someone who is a victim of that disease, and we are in fact giving a sort of time as well as a sort of breeding ground for that particular disease, that particular bacteria or virus to flourish. So this is again a thing that we need to understand as a society. The third and the last thing that I would like to talk about is this stigma. Many times we hear these words that that person is suffering from he's getting the he's going through the results of his or her deeds. Karma has caught him and things like that. Now, who are we to judge whether someone is right or wrong? What we can do, if we think that we are very good, then the best thing that we can do is we can create an environment, at least in which people will be able to find a proper treatment for their loved ones or for themselves. So the thing is, we used to have this colonial laws operating in our country as far as this leprosy is concerned, and the Lepers Act of 1898 was just repealed 2 years ago. But the things that are, or in recent past, we saw a couple of things that are, it's like a a light at the end of the tunnel. It gives us hope that things will be all right for those people who are suffering from leprosy. The first thing is that introduction of a bill which removed this leprosy as a ground, which is talking about, of course, removing this leprosy as a ground for seeking divorce. And the second one is that Supreme Court has asked Centre to do everything that is possible to make sure that all these negative items and things associated with this leprosy, like the stigma, or you can say, this rules, regulations, customs and practices, if these sort of things are operating in society, then as far as Centre is concerned, it should do everything possible, and it should get rid of all those acts and laws that are perpetuating the stigma associated with this leprosy. We have Law Commission. Law Commission is, you can say, an apex body as far as this knowledge of law and things is concerned. So even if Government of India is seeking for some technical information regarding law, then it will seek the help of Law Commission. So you can understand that it's a sort of commission that is, you find experts of law in this commission, generally speaking. So this Law Commission came out with this 256th report, and in this report as well, it is talking about this repealing all discriminatory legal provisions. It is also talking about discriminating or abolishing these personal laws and acts of beggary. The report also cites this United Nations General Assembly's resolution of 2010 on the elimination of discrimination against persons with leprosy. Thank God we have a good example, Mother Teresa. She was not biased, and she was not creating this stigma against this thing. She has in fact showed us this path, that it is this compassion, it is this understanding that helps people. And as I told you, people are, people, if they are suffering from some disease, then they are just unfortunate. We are no one to judge whether they are suffering from this thing or that thing, or they are suffering because of this thing and that thing, or their karma. We are no one to judge. Just imagine if people like Mother Teresa and doctors and other people, if they start thinking in the same way, then you can understand it's not going to be helpful for any one of us, isn't it? And there were, there used to be some diseases like, I don't have the proper name of those things, because then the things that I have read is more in, Gujarati language, so I don't have proper English word for that. But I can tell you that some diseases, that you get some sort of spots on your face or on your body. And this sort of diseases, earlier on, they were considered as that God is punishing you for something that you have done and things like that. But nowadays, right, we have tablets and medicines available. You just take one tablet and you will be all right. So imagine, how wrong those people were when they used to consider this disease as an act of God. But it is nothing more than viral infection or fungal infection. So today we have medicines. You get it for 10 rupees, 20 rupees, and off you go. You'll be all right with those diseases. Same thing in future, right? Leprosy, let's hope that we find a proper cure through which people who get affected by this leprosy, they can live a normal life. But for that, we have to create a society that is compassionate, as well as that is understanding the problems of other people in the society. With this, dear friends, if you want to download the PDF of today's lecture, you will get it from my Facebook page and Twitter handle. And the second item that we have is associated with United Nations, of course, yes, United States, and predominantly it is about Iran. But if you read between the lines, then you will find that we too are in the line. Because this connection between Iran and India, we supply so many things to Iran. At the same time, we import huge amount of oil from Iran, and oil is a thing that is a very important source of our energy. If oil prices are going up, then it will have a very bad impact on our politics and social life as well. So many people, they'll start they have to stay hungry because of oil prices going up. Now you'd be thinking how this is possible, because everything is transported using this either you have this railways, or you have this trucks or big ships, diesel is used in it, isn't it? And because of this thing, if the price of items are going up, then inflation will kick in, and because of inflation, there are so many people they cannot afford a cup of milk for their kids because of prices going up. So this is how it impacts us indirectly. Now, coming back to this, the big squeeze. This topic is about this strains between this issues, or this you can say a sort of inferno that we find in Iran, between this moderate and hardline sections. Now, that's what this Western world, or particularly when I say Western world, I'm talking about USA. And if we talk about two arch rivals of this country, Iran, in this West Asia, you have one is Israel, and the other is Saudi Arabia. So both these countries as well, they want to see this person who is at present president of Iran to go out, and they want to see someone else coming in, particularly a party that can act as a puppet of USA, or indirectly you can say Saudi Arabia and Israel. Now, for various different reasons, these countries, they don't want to see Iran becoming a nuclear power. If it will become a nuclear power, then this whole power balance of power will be in favor of Iran. It will create more troubles for this rivalry that they have with each other. The other thing is for USA as well, to control this whole region. It is important that USA keeps this both allies, Saudi Arabia as well as this Israel, happy. And what they want to see is, they want to see that their dominance should be here as far as this West Asian region is concerned. So it's religion is something that is more visible, right? But underneath this mask of religion, or this religious arch rivalry, you find it is business, it is geopolitics, it is dominance of the market, and all these things. So USA and these other countries, they want to see someone who is a person who can act as a puppet. And at present, the government is not that bad. If you see the previous government that used to rule Iran, it was a bit of aggressive government. And after this Hassan Rouhani came in, he's the one who started this, he took this whole discussion to a logical conclusion. And then we got this JCPOA, that is Iran nuclear deal, in other words. Now, Riyal has lost over 50% of its value. And I have a small question for you guys. See, it's more than question, it's more about read between the lines, right? Riyal has lost over 50% of its value this year. So what you can do is, you can remember, you just recall the things that we have talked about, this rupee and dollar up and down. What happens when the value of rupee goes up, and what happens when value of rupee comes down? Is it good for importers, or is it good for exporters? Who will benefit the most out of it? Think about it, and then apply the same thing to this Riyal falling down. And there you go. You will find out everything about what's going on in this Iran. You'll find out what will be the situation of their society. The pressure is brewing, so why it is going to be difficult for government. If you go through this editorial, you will find the steps that are taken by government, what government is seeking from the world, everything. This is how you read between the lines. Just 1 or 2 points will help you, solve this whole puzzle, or this whole understanding. Of course, you need to have some background information for it, but now regular students who are following it for a bit of long period of time now, I'm sure you are with me. You are understanding what I'm trying to teach you here. So with this mounting public anger, people are not happy, particularly youngsters, right? Because inflation is high, things are expensive, corruption is high as well, and they are not finding proper jobs for them. And now they are feeling, that their future is a bit in darkness, or it's not that bright, it's a bit bleak. So pressure is mounting on this moderate government, and its exports, it's when it got a bit of relief when Mr. Obama was there. At that point of time, it did very well. So that impacts as well. Now once you start doing job, you're doing it for 1 year or 2 year, you are earning money, and all of a sudden when you lose your job, you feel like you are going down, right? You feel like it's a sort of nosedive. So same thing is going on with the people they are feeling the same thing. So it's creating more and more pressure. Now the thing is, this global community, right, must weigh in. Global community should step in, because USA alone cannot decide future of other countries. Now, if we go through this whole Iran nuclear deal, what we find is that Mr. Trump has stepped out, and now Mr. Trump or USA is, applying more and more sanctions on this particular country, Iran. The deal was, this whole deal, this JCPOA or this nuclear deal, was done by United Nations, right? All these countries that are part of this. And I have a question for you guys. This is the reason why I'm not giving you the name of the countries. Can you give me the name of the countries who are associated with this Iran nuclear deal? And can you also give me the full form of JCPOA? These are two questions for you guys. Make sure you stick your answers in the comment section of this video. If you don't know the answer, that does not mean that you don't have to answer it. Google it, find it out, do a little bit of research, and then post your answer. This is how you study and prepare for various competitive exams. So E3 countries, when I say E3, I'm talking about UK, I'm talking about France, I'm talking about Germany. All these three countries are part of this European continent, and they are one of the most powerful countries as well in the world. As you can see, that two of them are part of United Nations Security Council. So these two countries have also said that this Iran is doing everything that is right. It is following all these rules and regulation. China is supporting Iran. Russia is there for Iran. So it's just USA, and it is creating more and more pressure on Iran. The other thing is that Iran has asked United Nations to act against economic strangulation by this USA. You will find this item in today's international page of the Hindu, right? This Iran has asked this United Nations to do something about this thing. And now the next item that we have is associated with this toxic silence. You know that we started our discussion with silence, but that was more about mental silence. And here it is talking about toxic silence. Many a times, right, you have to raise your voice to state your point. But at that point of time as well, if something wrong is going on, and if you are thinking that by keeping your mouth shut or by not taking action, you are doing a great thing, then that is again and not a right thing. And of course, when I'm saying this thing, I would like to tell you that don't take unnecessary risks, right? What I'm trying to say here is that things associated with women, right? Earlier on, we used to find, and sadly, this thing is still prevalent in many parts, or we find it in many different companies as well, that women lot, they are sexually harassed at workplace. And to get rid of this thing, we came out with a law. It's called Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act of 2013. But the thing is, you have some rules and regulations under this act that you have to report. If anything goes wrong, then you have to note it down in your annual report of institution. You have to pass this information to district officer. And because this whole society earlier on, if we go back 50-60 years ago, then we used to find that people used to talk about all those ladies who used to go out for work, right? Even if they are working in office or something somewhere else, they were been considered as those sort of women who are ready to do anything for money. This was a stereotype that was prevalent few years ago. There are a few pockets in our country. Even today you find that people think in this way, which is of course not right at all. Something is wrong with their upbringing and their perspective, rather than ladies working out and supporting their families. So anyways, in a nutshell, I would say that things have changed, but still there are things that needs to be changed. And for that, we have to create awareness about this thing, because what we find is the Hindu newspaper conducted or tried to, go through this. They were trying to analyze this whole situation, or this this harassment going on, if there is any, in scientific or this as research institutions or this labs environment over there, if this sort of things are prevalent over there as well. So for that they created as sort of questionnaire, but sadly institutions never replied, most of them, and those who replied, most of them were a bit that friendly. So this indicates a lack of even today we have this lack of awareness about acts and rules and regulations that we have in our country as far as this workplace and sexual harassment is concerned. Now, ways to read the constitution. It's a very interesting article, right? Very interesting article, and I would say that it's an article that you can save. You can read it when you like, time and again, read and reread this one, because this article, see, we have talked about Sabrimala temple in Hindi version of today's lecture. I have talked about this thing in detail because I believe it was my second interaction as far as this Sabrimala temple case is concerned with all those students who are from Hindi medium background. But with you guys, I have talked about this thing. We have discussed this thing from various different angles, isn't it? So I'm not going into the details of all those things. All I want to say is that this article is talking about two approaches of reading the constitution. One is original intent and the second one is living tree doctrine. We'll go through both of them. Now, original intent approach of reading the constitution is, say for example, if X member of Constituent Assembly or this whole Constituent Assembly talked something about Article 17, right? Article 17, if you don't know, let me tell you that it is about untouchability, right? Article 17 is about untouchability, that it is not allowed, it is abolished, and if anyone is practicing this thing, then that will be considered as a crime. Now, people generally think that untouchability is something to do with Dalits only, right? It is only Dalits who are treated as untouchables and no one else. But that is not right. If we see this whole case of Sabrimala, what we find is that ladies were asked to stay away from temple. We also find that in many places, in many houses, in many families, if someone is going through, if a lady is going through sort of periods, then she will have to stay out of kitchen, and there are so many restrictions on her. She cannot wash her hairs and so many things. So all these things are based on purity and impurity, and it is a form of untouchability that is abolished by our constitution. So original intent, if you go or look at constitution or articles of constitution from original intent perspective, then just Dalit and untouchability we will take into consideration. But when you look at it from living tree doctrine, which is a bit prevalent in Canadian law, living tree doctrine is about syncing this constitution. When I say sync, I mean to say SYNC, synchronizing this constitution and articles with time, with the change in society, and adapting it to the changing times. So this is something that is more progressive in nature. Of course, it is more broad, and all our interpretations, right, should contain rights in their broadest realm. This is the most important thing, that articles and all our interpretations should give as much as freedom as possible at that given point of time. This is the real meaning of having a constitution. This is the real meaning of interpretation. So living tree is a doctrine that we need to adapt here. And see, bottom line is that this whole issue of Sabrimala was not just associated with a freedom of religion, or it is not just limited to women's right. It also includes how we read and interpret our constitution. With this difference, how dams can control floods. Yesterday we were talking about this thing, isn't it? Negative points about dams, how it can create earthquakes, and why it is not good for environment and things like that. So today we have a sort of different perspective on this Dams, predominantly dams around the world, right, are used for, or their main utility is irrigation. Second is power generation, and the third one is flood control. Now, as far as this irrigation is concerned or power generation is concerned, we know it very well that in our country as well we have big dams. And if we go through this figure here, then back in 2014 around the world, right, total electricity production, out of this total electricity production, 16.6% was produced from hydropower generation. Anyways, you have many negative things as well associated with hydropower generation. But when it comes to management of this dams and water management in our country, we have this problem that we have three different bosses, right? We have power, beg your pardon, we have public works department, we have electricity board, and we have irrigation department. All these three departments work together, they share this power. So this is one of the reasons why it takes ages for us to reach to a logical conclusion or decide on something. And the other thing is that they will look after their own back rather than helping each other. These ego clashes and all these things are creating this sort of problems that we are finding at present in our country as far as this Kerala is concerned. So what we can do about it, we can follow best practices that are going on in different parts of the world. See, in today's era, we have this IMD's report. You can get real-time reports on your mobile phones as well. So based on these things, right, reports and other analysis that you can get from IMD, you can empty this dam pre-monsoon era. That's what Thailand does, right? They empty nearly 60% of their capacity. And this means that during this summertime or in this when the sky is clear, at that point of time you are distributing water, which will improve your productivity. And because your dams are empty 60%, even if there is excessive rainfall, then you'd be able to store everything that is pouring down from the sky. Now, important news, let's go through it. By the way, that's everything as far as today's articles are concerned. So first item that we have in news is that protocol will not stop me meeting leaders has been said by new governor of Jammu and Kashmir. Major Gogoi may be court-martialed. Not that important in that sense, but in the other way, if you see, then it is about integrity, it is about ethics, it is about following rules and regulation. This person here, he has not followed rules and regulation. He started, chatting around, and he started with hanging around with a lady of a town, and this is something that is not allowed to people who are doing job, right? Army personnel, if they are deployed somewhere, they cannot interact with local people over there. When I say interact, I mean to say that you cannot have relationship like some sort of affairs. You cannot have this sort of things. This is not allowed at all. So Godhra case, two more get life term, and we have Jatropa Powers, India's first biofuel flight. It's first flight, but not the last one. Hopefully, last on 10th of August, we celebrated this World Biofuel Day, and the main purpose of our Biofuel Day, our main, you can say, targets are that we want to reduce this dependency of biofuel. It will help us with the environment as well, and there are other benefits. It will bring down the cost. It will become cheaper for us to travel. So this is something that we are looking forward to. Sushma Swaraj opens food camp in Vietnam. When I say food camp, I mean to say we are not talking about military camps. We are talking about this Jaipur food that can be given to this people with special ability. Indus Treaty talks to begin tomorrow. Indus Treaty is considered one of the most you can say outstanding treaties as far as various different treaties between different countries are concerned, and it is between India and Pakistan, and it is considered as one of the most successful ones. So you can imagine how successful it would be. And here you see prices of diesel going up. If diesel goes up, then other things go up as well. And here you have some financial news. This clash going on between US and China. India is a country that is making most out of it. Supreme Court has issued notices to various ministries and WhatsApp. It is based on petition asking that this WhatsApp should be treated as OTT. That is, it should be treated as a full full teleco rules and regulations should be allowed on should be applied on WhatsApp. And here you find that lesser load on courts. What government is trying to do is that if you have any problems regarding corporate cases and things like that, then it should be sorted out as soon as possible in-house. And by doing this, alternative way of redressing these problems is the way through which we can unburden our courts. And here you have this high stakes battle. It is about this e-commerce business that is going to do well. That's what it looks like at present, that it is going to do very well in this festival season. These are your vocabulary. Yesterday I asked a question, it is about Crimea. The answer is right. Can you give me the name of this point here, or this place here? Give me just the name. And yesterday I asked you a question. I've observed that there was a sort of typing error from my side. It should be, Brazil and Ecuador. These are the only two countries. These two countries you don't find this equator passing from it. As far as this Peru is concerned, you can see here, let me show it to you, zoom it up for you guys. You can see here that the equator is passing a little bit north of this northern tip of Peru. And then you have this, sorry about that as well. Hold on. Right, if we observe this map of South America, you find here that this is Chile here, Brazil, of course, you can clearly see, and Ecuador, of course, but Peru, we have seen this one, and Chile is no, big no. So you know the answer now. These are your two new questions, and can you give me the name of the country this flag belongs to? That's everything. I'll see you all soon. Enjoy your studies. God bless you all. Jai Hind.